All right, everybody. I think we're gonna call this meeting to order. The 101st meeting of the BTNEP Management Conference here on Nichols campus. We are joined in by Zoom, so we have a light crowd right here in person, but we do have a bunch of people checking in. So thank you all for checking in online. We're gonna dispense with roll call just because everybody signed in. We'll use that as our roll call. And then if you are checked in online through your phone, please send a full email so she can document that you were here. All right. I hope everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting. And any comments about the minutes? Anybody make a motion to accept? Gary LaFleur accept. Second. Brian Roberts second. All in favor? Done. Thank y'all. Okay. Next we'll have our director report. See Brad.
Well, good morning, everyone. I want you all to know just right off the bat, I'm not trying to look cool. I'm not trying to look like Joe Biden, goodness gracious, but I stepped on my glasses yesterday and I found these nuggets in an old drawer. But apparently there was some kind of, when I was like going through this multi-spectacle phase where I think these were my look outside with some shade glasses. Anyway, the important thing is no matter how they look, I can see. So that's a positive thing. And I'll tell you one thing that we've been seeing with the organization. I always try to there we are. Okay. Call it above the fold to try to grab the major activities of the last quarter. And I would say that what stands out this last quarter is that the re-engagement with the public. COVID's behind us. We've gone full force back in all aspects. And one of the things we're doing and trying to do is to reach out to a broader audience throughout the estuary. And one way, this was a project that our senior scientists, Andrew Aaron and Michael Massamy, brought and worked on. This is a new swamp exhibit at Audubon. BTNEP sponsored this. This is a new type of thing for us. We sponsored this swamp scene that's got very, very high traffic, very prominent, and it will have more than 250,000 people go by it, and hopefully learn a little bit about our estuary. We, of course, in this last quarter, we had our White Boot Gala. It was the most successful ever. We're going to hear from our foundation chairman shortly, but it was well attended and the energy, it was just a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to this for many years to come. Right now, we're talking about It's Always at SPARS. They're phenomenal partners. We had a remarkable evening, but we're kind of stuck at about 110 people, but we're going to see about expanding that. We want to stay with SPARS, but I think we're going to expand that in the next year. We also participated, this was organized by Nichols, the International Coastal Cleanup. We sent a big group out there, as you can see, and it was a very successful day. We've been engaging with groups around going the festival season, what we like about the fall, especially when the Saints are doing as poorly as they are, the festivals kind of make up for that a bit. We've had quite a few of them over the fall, and working hand in hand at the farm, at Nichols Farm, which is very exciting, and that's why we're going to focus on that a little bit later. Our volunteer activities have picked up again with the work that we do in the native plant nursery, led by Matt Benoit and Ashley Lambiot. We've had just an increasing number of groups there. Had I don't want to overstate it, but more than 100 different volunteers come this last quarter. We like the free labor. What do we do? I don't know if we give them anything, but water, I think, but they work for water. Nice. We are also trying to increase our reach and engagement through social media. These numbers kind of speak for themselves. We have a new hire that since that I'm going to introduce in just a moment, but who specializes in social media communications outreach. And you can see that by the quality and the quantity of the things that are going out, that we're reaching more and more people. And that's just a tremendously positive trend. So examples of some of the things that have gone out, they've gone out frequently, but not too frequently, as I'm told. It's a killer social media, but just right. Anyway, it's working. Oops. Oops. So the other thing that is finished and in the can and is also at the printer, we'll get the title graph calendar. Everybody will have that sent to them next month. And of course, we'll have all you need for your family and friends. And also, this is a new hire, and we know Block. Y'all may have recognized her. She worked with White Car. We were able to recruit her, and very happy to have her as part of our staff, Emily. Emily does all this social media work, and the communication is bringing a very cohesive brand to BTNEP, which we appreciate. The major business of this quarter has been to introduce this new line of funding that has come via EPA as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. We have spoken about this last couple of meetings when it became evident that this funding was coming to us. It amounts to each of the national estuary programs around the country. There's 28 of us. Each are going to receive $900,000, a little over $900,000 for the next 5 years. And this will be used to expand the types of projects and the amount of money that we're able to invest in projects around the estuary. And there are some certain targets that EPA wants to meet. We're trying to get one of the requirements is that at least 40% of it impact disadvantaged communities. This has been almost like a design build, right? I mean, we got the guidance just a couple of days before our last our last management conference, and so we're not ready to come forth with these projects. We've had about probably 20 submissions. Some of them are more vetted than others. Most all of them were very worthy projects. And once we're moving forward with this first tranche, it's I guess 1/5 of the total funding we're going to get. We're going to go over here today. But what the important thing to know is we're going to be coming out with another tranche of spending. The deadline is May, but the EPA has the money available right now. So we're going to come forth, put out some information. We already have numerous projects that will take us through the second tranche, but we'll give others a chance to be considered. And then we're going to come back again, probably, I guess it'll be the second quarter meeting in May for that in 2023, come forth with the second tranche. But today I want to go over and discuss. Everybody should have a copy of this work plan. And I'll take you through and describe each of these projects briefly, why they were selected and what we think they add to the mix. In my view, this money is used correctly. It's going to reach efforts that otherwise may not have been reached, which is hard because we have to find projects where we also have funding coming in. This money requires no match. However, the goal is to leverage other funding with it and to multiply the effect of this special funding from the EPA. And that's what we've tried to do here. Now, the first major investment for this tranche is the Bayou Falls watershed. Our senior scientist, Andrew Barron, who runs this program, he and his wife, Siva, were unable to be here today for some family business. But I can take you through this. And we have Pat Gordon here as well, who's from South Central Planning, who can also answer any questions if anybody has any. Basically, what this money is going to be a continuation, a deeper dive into the very successful effort that we've had for the last couple of years with South Central Planning. We're working to, delist a couple of impaired waterways that are in our estuary, Bayou Lafourche and Bayou Falls watersheds. And we do that through a monitoring program, but also with a home sewage a matching program. It allows, if somebody needs sewage repairs, that we come in and match the the amount of repairs that are needed. One of the issues we had, however, were that you can tell a family, hey, this is going to cost $8,000. You get 4, we've got 4. Well, a lot of these families don't have that first 4. And so what this is going to allow us to do is for families that qualify, we're going to now be able to pay 100% of those improvements, which are going to help them, going to help our water systems, going to help our estuary. So we're excited about this. And this is something that we are probably going to continue throughout the course of this funding cycle. The Lowlanders Canal project, $195,000. Now, you all may recall that the Lowlanders received one of the 6 or 7 competitive NEP grants that were administered by the Restore America's Estuaries and EPA program, a competitive grant program. They received one of, I think it was 7 projects, but a year and a half ago. It was for several $100,000, and what that did was assess all the different areas that may be possible for the canal backfill marsh creation. And what they've done is they came to us and they have an area in cooperation with ConocoPhillips and an area where they're going to attempt this. This is a demonstration project, but it's one that an effort where already more than $500,000 of other funding has been put toward this effort. We're coming in with this first demonstration, and if successful, we'll see what happens. We'll probably hope that it will attract a whole slew of additional funding, and if it ends up being a workable concept. But the idea, this was in tribal led, tribal design, work with experts to restore marshes that are going to protect tribal lands and the rest of our coast. And so it's very exciting. And this is one that it targets some of the areas that EPA is wanting us to hit with this funding. So that is a exciting thing. They've come in a number of times. Everything looks in order, and we're excited about that one. Nickel State monitoring of the Barataria-Terrebonne basins. This is a project. We all know that the diversions, well, we suspect the plan is that these diversions are going to be breaking ground and be online, the Mid-Barataria diversion first. What that's going to do is introduce an amount of fresh water into our basin. You all know this. This has been discussed for many years now, and it's now coming to fruition. The CREMS monitoring system, which takes in a lot of environmental, ecological measurements, weather and subsidence and such like this. But there is a biological database that just isn't there. And that is what this effort is going to do. It's going to monitor finfish, to monitor crustaceans. We all know that this is critical to the livelihoods of many of the families that live here in our estuary. And so this is for the first year. It's a little bit heavy because it's got some equipment cost on year 1, but we're going to continue this out, track other funding in out years. But the idea is that when these things come online, 2, maybe 3 years, we're going to have a data set that there is, a baseline that we could clearly use. And what we hope is that the data that is collected will help influence the way that these diversions are operated in a way that's the least damaging, the way that's most effective. We know that the disappearing coast is an existential threat But we also have real life consequences to those that are impacting today. This data is going to be very helpful in that regard. The Bayou Fouche Freshwater District, we've all seen the improvements that they've made over the last many years, and then we just had very exciting dedicating the new pump station down in right outside of Donaldsonville, excuse me. It is you know, got more fresh water pumping into the bayou, and you know, the weir has been removed and everything is, oh man, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyway, so what they've tried to really enhance some of the recreational access along the bayou. You've seen the improvements that Nichols and Freshwater District Friends of Bayou Fouche have made, that great little park that's right in front of the university. Well, this is an attempt to open up access to other areas of the community that that don't currently have it. This Bayou Park is outside of the St. Charles community, and it's going to feature a boat launch and educational and outdoor park. It's about a $1.3 million on the first stage. So that's a very good leveraging use of this money, almost 10 to 1. Something we're excited about is the Nichols State, the new coastal center, which we will be meeting in one of these days, I guess. Although this is nice, we like this, we like our locker room. But the coastal center is going to be a fantastic new facility on the Nichols campus. And what this project is going to do, we're going to team up with QIPRA, and they are going to fund almost the amount of money that we did. And when you walk into the lobby to that, there's going to be all sorts of different displays and such. But what we are going to fund and build is a large scale map and educational piece on the estuary, an interactive map that will show like what the different things that are going on the estuary. It will explain everything to the public, and it'll be done in a way. It's actually the same company. If anybody's ever been to the river system, at LSU, the river study system, and they have I guess it's a coastal studies building rather, and they have interactive maps, and it's going to be very much in that that vein. And then finally, another tribal thing, really excited about this one. This is a sponsorship, kind of like what we did with Audubon, but just on a grander scale. This is a documentary that is going to be debut in the spring, national debut. Of course, it'll be shown many times in Louisiana. It was filmed by Louisiana Public Broadcasting and PBS. And what it was telling the story of the impacts within our estuary, in our basin. So the climate change impacts to the tribe that had to be relocated. And it continued all the way through. It started about a year before Ida, and it went all the way through there. So it tells a very dramatic story. But from our perspective, what is going to allow us to do is we are going to hold a series of workshops and discussions, and this will be a centerpiece to that. And of course, we'll get all the ancillary benefits of BTNEP messaging and everything being out there to the public. So the total, as you can see, the total investment is $773,000. Now, our fiscal agent is Lumcon. We're going to hear from Dr. Brian Roberts a little bit later. But so as a fiscal agent, they take the 10% right off the top there, and it leaves about a 5% of $45,000, which we're going to use in all the different overhead that BTNEP has with this money, in the project management, travel, etc., which gives us this the total budget here. And like I said, this is the first tranche. growing pains where this has been a little bumpier than I guess expected, but you know, it will be smoother and smoother going forward, and we're really looking forward to ideally things we don't even know about yet that you all might be able to come to us and say, well, you know about this effort here in the community, or you know about this. These are folks that don't have money, but they've got all these ideas and plans, and it works into our coastal master plan. We want everything to work together. We want to partner with local governments and local groups wherever possible to leverage these funds. And that's what we're going to be doing moving forward. Does anybody have any questions or about this? And of course, you all have the plans. It's just right in front of you. Okay.
What I think I would like to do, if we can get the management conference to approve this plan. So if there's any more discussion, let's hear it. Otherwise, would someone like to call a motion to accept this plan as is?
I will say this, that DEQ on our the Bayou Falls watershed, they sent in a number of suggestions, very good ones that they have about information that they want that will be incorporated along with any others that people suggested.
Ron Roberts makes a motion. Can we get a second? I feel what you name? Charles. Charles, sorry about that, Charles. Okay, all in favor? All right, any opposed? All right, we have consensus. Thank you.
Okay. And then with that, I want to thank you all. Like I said, we're going to continue looking for ways to find those areas where this money can make an impact. We have begun with our action plan teams already to start for next year with our regular 320 funds. We usually distribute about $250,000 in projects every year. That's what we've all become accustomed to. And so you can see that this money is almost 4 times that, 3.5 or 4 times that, is really going to allow BTNEP to make a larger impact than we've ever been able to before. Thank you all very much. With that, I'm going to ask Gary LaFleur, Dr. Gary LaFleur, to come up and give us a report from the foundation. He's been very busy, and we've all benefited from it. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have a whole lot to say, but since the last time we met, it was before the White Food Gala. I wanted to make sure that y'all knew that we appreciated y'all's participation. We had a record-breaking year at the White Food Gala. Usually, the Barataria-Terrebonne Estuary Foundation is sort of a silent partner in what BTNEP does, but once a year we try to do it up big. So SPARS helped a whole lot. We want to thank them. We had a lot of people in the room and within our management conference that donated auction items. The BTNEP staff and the LUMCON staff and faculty showed up, and we had a great time, and we made more than $9,000, which is higher than usual. So we just wanted to say thanks for your support, and you can kind of pencil us in for next year. September is when Estuary Week is. So we'd like to put that on your yearly calendar to celebrate White Food Gala and our estuary on Estuary Week. So see you again next year. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. And I think for all the events that I've been to, all the White Food Galas I've been to, I think this one was the most packed. It was a really good time. It was full. You couldn't only walk around the room, and everybody had a great time. So
it was very nice because we had a different crowd, different people. So yeah,
very
y'all
well
join us.
Very well produced.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so our first guest speaker today is Dr. Brian Roberts. He's the executive director at LUMCON right now. He's going to give us an update on his activities and what's going on there.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Where do I have to be so that way they can see me? Because I don't stand still very well, as those of you who've seen me talk about before, it doesn't work. Well, I got asked to give you a little bit of an update. We've had a lot of changes at LUMCON, and I'm really excited about the future. So for those of you that don't know me, I was appointed the interim executive director by the Commissioner of Higher Education on July 1st, but I've been at LumCon for quite a while. I've actually been there a little over 15 years, which is pretty remarkable because this is been the same house this entire time, and I've had 41 mailing addresses. So something about this region has kind of sucked me in, and I'm still here. Still at LumCon, despite the fact that we have a lot of flooding. And that means that we actually use the white boots on a regular basis. So this is not just a thing. People keep them in their vehicles because you don't know when you show up whether or not the lot can be flooded. But what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of an update. And for those of you who are not that familiar with LumCon, a little bit of an overview about what we're about and how we partner with BTNEP and others, and sort of our vision for how we want to move forward. This is an aerial view that I took from a small plane of our Marine Center in Cocodrie. This is why we have the flooding I'm talking about, because we're down here in Cocodrie. LumCon's mission, as was established by the state legislature when it was formed in 1979, is to promote, facilitate, and conduct research and education collaborations among Louisiana universities, marine and coastal sciences relevant to the sustainability coastal marine environments of the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, I need to take my breath. It's a mouthful, but there's a lot in here that's really important and we still do today. So our vision, thank you, forward. All right. So I guess we're going to use some water in about 15 minutes. Our coasts and oceans revitalized through innovation, collaboration, and community action. We like that. Oh, okay, that is weird. I went backwards and it's there. Okay, we have 3 taglines that we like to use that about LumCon's about: connect, enrich, and transform. By connect, we mean to enhance the research collaboration exchange by linking the consortium through stronger partnerships. This is how today ties in. This is one of the things that was really one of the pillars of LumCon. Enrich, give back to the community through education outreach initiatives. And then I don't know why, but transform, if I go backwards, it'll see now the transform stuff. I don't understand that. It didn't do that on my computer earlier. I'm going to blame it on the math. Transform is to impact science and conservation in meaningful and profound ways. So these are big goals. How do we do that? Now we're doing this in our own. So LumCon is a really interesting construct and idea, because it's a little bit confusing to think about, because people think about LumCon and what it stands for is Louisiana Universities Marine Consortium. So we're a consortium of all the universities, public and private, which is really unique, in the state of Louisiana. That includes the UL system, the LSU system, Southern, private institutions, as well as the entire community and technical college system, which makes us really unique even for consortiums around the country in terms of full engagement. And so this is one of the things that we're really, I think, is important. It's not just that what we do as the people that are employed directly through LumCon, but one of our jobs is to try to facilitate and promote these collaborations among other institutions and partners. But we are also stuck in neutral. See, and then I went forward. Okay, well, but LumCon is a division of the Board of Regents. Right, and the way I view LumCon, this is part of where the change is that I view that we have 5 main components of what I view as LumCon. We have the facilities and resources. So our physical entities for the day-to-day operations of what everything does. We have our research and science programs. We have our education outreach programs. We have our vessels and dive operations. And then is, as T-Brad mentioned, we're the fiscal agent that oversees it. But what we're trying to do, and T-Brad and I have had a lot of conversation about, is really trying to build and strengthen that collaboration to try to enhance what each of us can do independently. So we have this physical location for research and education. We have access to the largest wetlands in the US and the Gulf of Mexico, access to blue and deep water. We have lots of facilities including these marsh musicosms, which are really, really awesome, but also been the bane of my existence, that we built after the oil spill to study on a large realistic scale what the impacts of oil are. We have a lot of wet lab and research facilities. We have a unique library that has some holdings that no one else has on the Gulf Coast. We have our research and science programs. We currently have 7 in residence faculty at the Marine Center. We have our 8th, which will be the first based at the Homa campus I'll talk about in a moment, begins in January. And then we're also going to be recruiting 2 to 3 additional faculty members over the next couple of years. Education and outreach. Merck Conover, who's our Associate Director of Education Outreach, developed this mission statement for that program. It enables the next generation of marine scientists. Normally I'm looking at that on the screen here, so now I have to look away from you, which I don't like. And ocean literate citizens. The program provides meaningful and relevant place and skill-based experiences, which is the part that I want to emphasize. That's what LumCon does. It's very unique. For all visitors and significant impacts, Louisiana's diverse citizenry, including those populations underrepresented, underserved in marine science. We have programs that are designed from K-12, pre-K to 12. Marine science can be more than just a body of knowledge. It can be a lifelong passion. University education programs, leaving the classroom behind for life experience and job readiness skills. And this goes from early level undergraduate through graduate programs, and then community programs as well. So you can see some parallels here in some of the education programs that we do based out of the Marine Center and BTNEP does and gets involved in. I think there's a lot of potential to sort of take advantage of our commonality and interest in these things. Vessels and why, there's something really strange here. We have a lot of vessels. The RV Pelican is the most heavily used vessel of its size class in the national fleet. It's at sea roughly 200 days a year. RV Acadiana, which is a really great hybrid vessel because at 58 feet, it can be used for education groups, but it's also heavily used in research. And speaking from experience, I was just out in Ship Shoal last week doing our research there for a bone project. Our ship assets are unmatched in the Gulf of Mexico. We have a long and distinguished track record of service, and these are some of the small boats coming up to the Marine Center. And then, see, I have to go forward and then back. I don't understand this, but anyways, BTNEP. This is why we're here today, is to talk about all the great things that BTNEP does. But I want to remind everybody that we're also here to help facilitate what BTNEP can do. So I want to give you an update on what's going on with LumCon. You have to go forward and back. So you just, every time I'm going to go forward, just close your eyes for about 5 seconds. I'll come back to the slide and you'll see the words. Hurricane Ida had tremendous impacts at the Marine Center, like it did through a lot of the region. Yeah, and we didn't have power for 3 weeks. We didn't have water for 5 weeks, which meant we had no air conditioning, which means you're constantly going down there every day trying to move things around so that like freezers didn't overheat and all that kind of stuff. We made great progress. It's taken a long time, but we were able to get at least to substantial completion on the repairs in September, to the point where I was able to fully open to the public. So we're back to people can come in off the street and check out what's going on at LumCon, which to me was a big milestone to be able to get to that point. Despite the fact that we're still recovering from a pandemic and we had a less than fully functional Marine Center, we were still able to have a productive summer through a lot of efforts of folks. So I was able to have a fully, where's the, a fully represented REU program. I've been the director of our NSF funded research experience for undergraduate summer program since 2011. And we were able to actually have them in residence for the entire summer, which is great. It's the first year of a new 3-year grant for our program. We're also able to establish a couple of new programs, a STEM prep program internship that's a 6-week in residence program that's geared towards freshmen and sophomores in college that have not had much lab or research experience. And it's, instead of being a independent research project that they do, it's actually doing internship, sort of like a technician in a lab. So you kind of learn what it's like to be in a lab, and then you have a variety of skill building and educational workshops associated with it. We also introduced our graduate student in residence program, which is a fellowship where we had our first 2 graduate students from underrepresented groups that got to spend 10 weeks in residence doing their dissertation or thesis work based out of the Marine Center. And then we also still had our core programs that are for K-12 that had been in place for a long time. We had 2 different week-long high school camps that were in residence, and we had a successful teacher workshop, which was all the more impressive considering the fact we still didn't have a functional cafeteria. So we were having to do a lot of juggling and catering of food, but we made it work. Couple of other updates, just on sort of what's going on with LumCon, sort of still trying to be that leader for vessel resources for the Gulf of Mexico. The National Science Foundation is building 3 research vessels. Let's go forward and back. That are just under 200 feet long. All 3 of them are being built in Houma. The third one off and final boat off the shipyard is going to be the RCRV Gilbert R. Mason, which we will be operating out of LumCon with a partnership with USM. There's advantages to being the third boat. There have been a lot of learning curves when you're trying to build a boat of this size. So they just put the superstructure on top of the hull just last week for the first boat. And at this point, we have, you can't see it's under the water, we have this little piece that's down here under the water right there. There's one little section right here of our boat that's done at this point. But those are on pace to be ours late 2024. I think that's pretty optimistic because of where we're at right now. But the first boat is supposed to be put in the water this spring. So that's really exciting. Also, I mentioned the RV Pelican is the most widely used vessel in the national fleet for its size class. It's also approaching 40 years old. We've got a lot of support from the state, and we are going to be building a replacement vessel for this, which is going to be 9 feet longer, 8 feet wider, and have a lot more usable space. I'm not just saying that because I had a lot of role in trying to decide how to make the labs as efficient as possible. So my needs were definitely taken care of, which is always good. So the design, there's a $1 million award for JMS in mid-2021. We actually have just approved their final technical drawings and specification for this. So we're in the process of getting the bid process started. The estimated timeline is by 2025, which will be right in line with the 40-year retirement of the Pelican. Our hope is that it can actually be retired to be an education vessel associated with the Houma campus I'll talk about in a moment. Okay, so that is the moment is now. So we had an opportunity that was presented to us a couple of years ago. There's this plot of land on Dixon Road off of Grand Caillou in Houma, in the industrial complex. You can see where the vessels are being built all over the place, right around here. This land was originally given to the Technical Community College system. They initially offered us to have a building that existed here, and went and looked at it and like, no. So that building's now no longer here. But what we ended up with is we ended up coming out with this maritime campus concept. And so we were given this third of the property as well as the whole bulkhead. And so what we have here is this first building, which will be completed in 2023, and I'll show you some more details on it in a moment, which is initially named Blue Works. Not sure how well that's going to stick, but that's what it was originally named. And this is a campus to expand what it is that we do and we offer in terms of our research education programs. with a little bit more of a focus on engineering and technology aspects to better prepare the workforce that's needed. You know, this is a great opportunity to be in an area of Homa that has lower socioeconomics. And one of the things that's really amazing to me is most of the research fleet for the entire nation is built, and Coast Guard ships are built right here in Homa. But most of the labor is recruited from outside this region because we don't have the skill, the training that's taken place here. And so that's one of the things that we really like about partnering with the community college system to be able to do that a lot better. So that's that. The second phase is this boat slip, and this is designed to hold the RCRV. So it's over 200 feet long, and the bulkheading that we actually got some work. We got some funding that was helped by South Central Planning, actually, to get partial funding, and the rest of the funding is coming from the state. The South Central Planning, the funding, they wrote the grant. It's an EDA grant. That paperwork is signed, which means that we can now put the bid out. We expected this to take about a year. And then behind that is this building here, is the Marine Operations Center. And we had to do site surcharge on there. Basically, they dump, I don't even know how many dump trucks of sand, and then you gotta let it sit for 6 months, and you do testing to make sure your pilings can hold things. And then once that's completed, they'll start construction. It's anticipated that'll take about a year or so next spring. So, well, you'll start next spring, you'll finish the one after. So the idea is that by the summer of 2024, this third of the plot should be done, and hopefully bulkheading at least here. And oh yeah, and then we don't know about extending the bulkheading the entire length. These are some pictures that I took on one of my visits in September. So originally this building was supposed to be completed at the end of September. This is not done. The current estimation that they have for substantial completion is Valentine's Day. Probably not gonna happen. But I am pretty confident that sometime during the spring to early summer of next year, this building will be operational. Okay, now this is where I think it skipped all of these. Wow. All right, so these are just some artistic renderings of what the inside is. So a lot of exhibit space, open spaces for meetings and other things. You could have a meeting like this in that building. It'd be very nice. And we'll just do this because this doesn't seem to be, or maybe I won't. Okay. I'm not sure why it's moving on the screen, but not moving up there. Okay, so now it's okay. So yeah, I'll just do this. You don't need to see me walking back and forth anyways. So these are just some renderings of what the inside the building looks like, and then let's see if this works. This was the design for, they made it dramatic with sunrise and everything. They also, you'll notice, have pretty much taken out the entire industrial complex that's around the outside. It doesn't really look anything like that around it. But yeah, so
Dixon Road is a little different.
yeah, it does. I mean, we have worked, and I actually just had a meeting last week with the landscape architects. I mean, the whole idea here is that they are going to be 3 different mixes to try to figure out what it takes of different Louisiana wetland plants that will be seeds that will be dispersed to try to see what catches and what works in this environment and what doesn't. And then there'll be some cypress and it'll all have native vegetation that's on our part of the site. I can't speak for what Fletcher's going to do, but there is the existing building that was, I'm afraid to go all the way back to the end, so I'm just gonna go to this, and I'll start here, but when I showed you that map, our plot was over here on the left, and on the right, there was an existing building that Fletcher has, and then they're building a building in the middle that is a little bit held up because the construction cost, the bid came in above what it was originally. So there's a slight delay, but that building will be built as well. The idea is that we have this integrated campus that can have us working with Fletcher and the other community college system to try to really have a vibrant campus here. And one of the long-term visions of the Board of Regents Maritime Task Force, which Dr. Strickland and myself co-lead, is to try to bring a maritime academy to Louisiana. There are only 6 of these in the country. The closest one is in Texas. Texas used to allow Louisiana citizens to be able to get in-state tuition. They no longer do that. There's also only one other maritime academy in the country out of the 6 state maritime academies that allow river hours to count in your training. And considering the great need that you have for operations of vessels on the river for commerce in Louisiana, something we really want to be able to have there. So that's something that we hope will eventually become its own entity, but initially is being launched by Fletcher with input from the other community colleges. So I just want to end by saying that's kind of over what we do, and what I view LumCon's role in the state is, while we have a lot of individual assets and we have our direct staff, I view this consortium as an important concept, and that's to try to facilitate the interactions that exist between all our other university partners, but also our local communities, our state agencies, our other partners. And I think I'm really thrilled that BTNEP and LumCon have the arrangement that we do. And I think that it's something that hasn't been fully realized the potential that it can have in the past. I think that this is an exciting future for all of us. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. So I'll take any questions you might have. And now I'll drink the water then.
Brian, you mentioned the 3 vessels that are being constructed in the home area. Is one of them on the Thomas Sea Yard? That's on Industrial Boulevard?
They're all, well,
Because that
Bollinger's buying a lot of the companies. Right now, Bollinger is actually the one that is doing it.
Oh, okay.
So all 3 of those are that process is now being overseen by Bollinger. But there's also, right in the area, they just had I can't even remember what it's called. We had one of these for our ship. It's like when they have the little pieces, the first piece of the ship made for the new NOAA ship that's being built in Homa as well. That's actually even bigger than this. Keel laying, that's it. Thank you. It's like, and this is after I just spent 7.5 hours in a virtual meeting yesterday about the quarterly update on the progress for the RCRVs. And I still can't remember the part. Maybe it's just.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that vessel on Industrial Boulevard was one of the 3.
No, it's not. I know that vessel is substantially bigger than this. These are 200 feet. That vessel, I believe, is like 3 something.
And I believe that's a fish factory.
Oh, I thought it was a research vessel.
It is a vessel, but it is made to be a fish processing vessel.
Oh,
So
okay.
once it leaves, that's what it's going to be used for. But it's like 350 feet, maybe.
They've been working on it forever.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
These are slow, but the slowest process was actually getting the designs approved and everything else. I mean, this process has been going on 10 years, but they've actually only been building the ships for less than 2.
Thank you.
Are there any residential opportunities at Blue Works? I know LumCon has the dorms. Is there anything planned in that avenue?
At the moment, there is not, which is actually a frustration that I have. But we've talked with Fletcher about this in terms of expanding. We're also trying to, we have these core buildings that are here. We ultimately would like to see a building that's closer to the bulkhead behind Fletcher's existing building, which would ultimately be the home for the Maritime Academy is the long-term plan. We're also working, trying to get funding to try to get an outdoor classroom that's there. And I would like to really have that classroom also have full kitchen facilities in it. So that way we can have groups be able to stay for longer durations of time. There's some, there may be some bunking capabilities associated with the Marine Operations Center, but it's going to be short-term for people really using the vessels. At this point, there's not like a building that's dorms.
Yeah.
But there's space. And you know, this is a colossal investment of the state. If you look at the committed funds that are already in place outside vessels, it's between $40 and $50 million. So this is going to be a really important campus for the state moving forward. So you could see how there's the potential to get some housing there. But at this point, there isn't.
So I have a question. I'm here representing the Louisiana Science Teachers Association. So my question is, what are the plans for Blue Works for pre-K through 12 education versus the main one on campus right now?
Okay. So Mert and I are working on some more specific plans now that the building has gone through a lot of changes over time in terms of what was originally envisioned in terms of space, but it's really to try to expand. There's two main things that I think it happens with having the education programs at that campus. One is to be able to be accessible to groups that can't make it all the way to Cocodrie. So there will be some redundancy in some of the types of projects and activities that are carried out there. But the real key and focus is going to be to have it be more oriented towards technology and engineering type capabilities. So there is a fabrication lab that's in there. There are also 2 makers labs that are in there, and there's a bank of 3D printers. And so it's trying to show students how technology and engineering solutions can be incorporated to the coastal environment and some of the problems that we have, which is a little bit more so than we do down at the Marine Center, which tends to be a little bit more organismal, ecological in nature. It's kind of one of the wealth of things that you have down there. Now, there will be some of that. I mean, we did write a grant that got funded by NSF to revitalize and upgrade our collections. So, and I have a great person who started the summer on that and just signed up to do this for at least another year, which I'm very excited about. And what we're trying to do there is think about collections a little bit differently than they kind of have in the past, where, you know, it's important to have the organisms in jars. That's great. And you can see what they are. But we're really trying to develop something that has a digital interface. So what we're trying to do is all the things are going to be scannable. So they have a scannable barcode that then has the information where you can go to one of the kiosks that's there and get more information about them. And then that kiosk information can also be down at the Marine Center, even though we're going to move the collections up to the Maritime campus. And we got the, you know, the fancy Natural History Museum rolling shelves where you can kind of open things up, and there's actually a glass wall that has some of the organisms being displayed in there. The other thing that we're going to do with that grant is we're going to do a BioBlitz this summer, trying to catch everything that's on the Lemcon property, not like quantifying what the densities of everything is, but trying to capture everything so you have a complete understanding of what's there. And to me, I think what's really cool is to be able to think about, as that environment is changing so drastically down there, if you go and you do that every 5 years, what do you catch is different? Because I can tell you right now, for the long-term studies I have on the site, there's some drastic changes in what's happening down there, especially since the levee went. We're a lot fresher than we used to be. counterintuitive to a lot of people, but there's actually a lot of regions of Louisiana that are a lot fresher now than they were 5 or 6 years ago. And that a lot of that has to do with the fact that now our fresh water, instead of being diffusely let out across the coast, it's focused. So it goes through the gaps in the levees, and those areas tend to be fresher. And we're in that area down there. Other questions?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. I'm going to introduce myself and your next guest speaker. And I've got a lot to talk about, but I'm going to try to keep it within a reasonable time frame because I know the person who modulates the time of this is really strict. So I don't want to get in trouble. Thank you, sir. All right. A lot of people don't realize Nichols has a farm. Not only do they have a farm, but it's a big farm, and it's located about 3 miles down the bayou from the Nichols campus. And if you go under Lafourche Crossing, you've been right by the farm. It's about 277 acres, and it's bordered by that railroad track. This is Lafourche Crossing. This is Bayou Lafourche. This is where BTNEP has our facility. They talked about at our last meeting a couple of points. Bayou False, close to the farm, separating the back of the farm from the front of the farm. And there's a bridge that we use to access that. So I'll be bringing those together. Now, when you think about a farm, think about the first word that comes to your mind. I bet it's not biodiversity, right? You think about farm, you look at a sugarcane farm, you get sugarcane. That's about it. But this place has a lot of biodiversity. Elise and I spent many times just walking around looking at all the small things. And it's not just the flowers. We've got a lot of different animals out there, and it's just a wild place. And I'll bring that up because we want the farm to stay wild. There are going to be areas of the farm that we keep wild. In fact, Natalie's recently got a grant, and we're working with her to establish a native prairie, right? So we're gonna till up some soil and plot that native prairie out there, just to kind of preserve that type of habitat that we can have. So when I say it's a farm, it's not necessarily for sugarcane production or for cattle production, but it's the area that we do a lot of activities. And that's what I want to share with you today so that everybody understands what's going on. And those wild areas are great because we get to bring our classes out there. The farm is so close, we can bring our classes out during the regular class period, do activities out there, get our students the hands-on experiences that they need to understand ecology or ecosystem conservation or whatever. And they get back right to campus and go to the next class. And so it's the location of it is really fantastic for us. It is an agriculturally historic facility. And what we've recently done, which I'm really excited about, is starting to partner with FFA, the Future Farmers of America. This is a high school organization mostly. And we've hosted now twice the environmental and natural resources competition. Andrew and Sarah and Emily, they run the water quality test that the students have to do. Dr. John Dennis runs the GIS test that they have to do. Elise Farrar runs the specimen identification things they have to do. But we're not just talking about local FFA. This is the first place group from this past few weeks ago. They came from a school that's about 6 miles south of the Arkansas border. We've had schools from DeRidder. We've had schools from up near Shreveport come down. So we bring in a statewide high school competition to campus, which allows us to recruit these really fantastic students. And we're participating in the agricultural community. We will host this event each fall, moving here out. The winner of this contest goes on to nationals. So it's kind of a really big deal. The high school teachers are excited. I think we had 11 teams compete just a few weeks ago, which means we had 44 high school students at our farm learning about or competing agricultural related things. I want to point out the second place team was all female. You know, so it's what I like about FFA is it's not the FFA I grew up with in high school. It's much more diverse, and these are outstanding students. So I'm really proud to have the farm being part of that. Of course, I've got to mention BTNEP and the great job they're doing out there. This is one of the shining things that we have on our farm, our collaboration with BTNEP, where they do their plant production. And we heard the presentation on this last week or last meeting. So I just want to put that out there. They also bring in other people. They have groups from around the country that will come in to do the volunteers. So they go on spring break somewhere up north. They come back down here and they learn about our coastal issues and bring in information back to them with hands-on experience at the farm. So Matt and Ashley are out there just doing fantastic things. Thank y'all. We also have a partnership with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. This started way back 2006, I think, with the Louisiana Native Plant Initiative. And we had these plots out here of native species that most of these were collected by Gary Fine, going all around the state from the east coast to the west coast of Louisiana, collecting wild specimens, and we had them grown in these blocks. So this is what we call our crossing blocks, which represents a large genetic potential of each individual species. So we can take seeds from these, plant them somewhere else. When they grow up, we know we're going to have some that are adapted to that specific kind of location. We are maintaining this, and there's some other things that we're doing that I'll mention with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So we work real close with a plant materials center down in Galliano. One of the things that we established are these tree seed nurseries. So we went to Grand Isle and we collected acorns from my cousin's camp, from the churchyard, from the school grounds, Nature Conservancy property, that type of stuff. Grew them up, and then we planted them. And so if you take this Google shot, you can see these oak trees that are growing here. This is what we call our Grand Isle oaks. All right, this is what they look like right now. And we planted these in 2010. So they're growing like gangbusters. It's really good soil out there. And the idea is that these oak trees, they came from adult oak trees that have been persisting on Grand Isle for year after year after year after year. They haven't changed much. They're still there. So they have the genetic potential to withstand growing in our coastal environment. They can grow in dry, sandy soil. They can withstand persistent winds over the summer. They can withstand occasional inundation from salt water. And they have that genetic potential. So my idea is that we grow plant from these trees now and plant them down on the coast, they have a much higher potential for survival than if you're collecting acorns, say, from Arkansas. Nothing against Arkansas, but they don't have the same kind of climate that we do. And so this is what we call our maritime forest preserve, but this is our tree seed nursery. We also have part of our tree seed nursery, these sand live oaks. Sand live oaks used to be all around our coast growing on barrier islands, but around the 20s and 30s, they kind of went extinct. We couldn't find it anymore. I think most people here should know our Blaise Tezold. He found a tree growing around Bay St. Louis, collected some acorns from that tree, grew them up. Now we've got a planter here. They've been making acorns now for about 4 years, and we're growing some little seedlings from there. And so this is what I call like our brown pelican story for trees, right? We lost our brown pelicans. We had to go to another state to bring them back. We lost our sand live oaks, went to another state and brought it back. But now we have the potential to grow and plant these trees at our coastal areas as we rebuild our coast. So these tree seed nurseries represents our long-term commitment. I kind of cracked myself up. I found the original MOR request I wrote to our administration to plant those Grand Isle oaks. And like, we want to do this, and we're asking for a 25-year commitment for this farm space, blah, 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 blah. And I look at the administrators, like none of them there is there right now, but it's like, wow, we had some vision. And so again, we planted those trees back in 2010, and they're doing fantastic. We also have some bald cypress trees growing out there. They were grown from seeds collected from an area where all of the adults were the last ones standing, and now those adults are all dead from saltwater intrusion. Because they were the last tree standing, we think that these trees may have a little bit higher salt tolerance. So our plan is once these trees start producing seeds, we'll grow those seedlings up and compare them to other cypress trees, maybe from the Chaffalay Basin, to see maybe we do have a salt tolerance trees. We've got some persimmon trees growing out there. We've got some toothache trees that we're about to plant. We have an MOU with the Department of Ag and Forestry where they want to go out there and collect tree material from specific habitats, bring them to us, let us grow them up so that they can collect those that plant material and go put it back into that specific habitat where that tree came from. So that's the whole idea of this long-term commitment that we have for these trees. We also have another example of what we do. We have a plot for bitter panicum. This is the dune grass that you see when you cross the levee there at Grand Isle or wherever. And we have a plot that we grow them. When it comes time to do a restoration project, we just snip them. It's like miniature sugar cane, throw them into a burlap sack, bring them to the coast and stick them to the sand. We've been very successful at doing small scale plantings with this. We have our own source of bitter panicum that we get to make up. So we get to involve our students everywhere from growing the plants to harvesting the plants and bringing them down to the coast and monitor them over time. So that's something else that we have at the farm I'm pretty proud of. We bring our graduate students to the coast each fall, September usually, and we'll do a black mangrove planting in conjunction with wildlife fisheries at some of the barrier islands. We do this because even some of our Louisiana students have never been to the barrier islands. So we bring them out there, we let them get dirty and muddy, we plant the black mangroves, and then we collect seeds, we bring them back to the farm, and we plant them, and we grow them out. for the next year's planting. So it's a cycle. So again, our students are involved in everything from collecting the seeds to growing the plants out to putting them back out. Of course, when Hurricane Ida came through, we've been through the pandemic. We had not done a planting in a couple of years, and it blew the tops off of our greenhouses. And most of our, or pretty much every one of our mangroves died during the freeze. Remember the freezes that we had last winter? It got pretty cold. Guess what? Some of them came back. And we had a volunteer day with Loop employees came down there, and they repotted all these mangroves that came back into these larger pots that we're growing right now. We think these may be a cold tolerant mangrove, you know, because they survived the freeze. Like everything turned brown, but then they came back. In fact, I just gave, I think, 20 of them to Rep. Orgeron, who's now head of Restore Retreat. They're doing a planting down there on Timberlier. They took 20 of these, what we think might be cold tolerant ones. They're going to plant them, geolocate them, and then monitor them over time compared to the commercial source plant mangroves that they have. So we're going to get some real-time data in the field on these plants. Again, just one of those other activities that we are doing at the farm. All right, this is really cool. It's one of my best things I've done in a long time, I feel like. And we've established a cross-country track at the Nichols farm. And so this blue shaded area up there is the area that the track runs. I want to see the scale of the farm and then the area that the track is taken up. And so these yellow lines here, this is where they start, and they run around, and run all these loops and whatnot. And we've been doing this like for 4 or 5 years, and it's been fantastic. And just a few weeks ago, we held the Southland Conference Championship there. Think about it. We just had a bunch of cattle out there, a few years of maintaining this track, cutting it, mowing it, tilling it up, flattening it out, planting, you know, doing all that stuff. And now we held a conference track championship out there, and it was incredible. The amount of people that came out there, the athletes were phenomenal. And not only that, but ESPN Plus was streaming the event live. And I heard that the drone footage from that stream, the farm looked fantastic. So we got a lot of good exposure from that. And I'm really, really proud of that. Not only that, but there's a lot of interest in funding, developing a more professional track. So we've contracted with the Planners Design Group, working with Nichols Athletics, to develop a track that is as good as any track in this nation. It's going to have permanent fixtures, permanent mile markers, a permanent finish line. And we're going to come in, we can start the finish line, start the start line over here and do commercial grading, clear out whatever, you know, trees we have there. And that big start line is going to be used on a part of farm that's not normally used for anything except to run the lawnmower. You know, so it's going to be a great use of the farm. And not just from the cross-country track, we can host high school meets there, we can do other college meets there. And so this is, I think it's going to be a great use. Now, as the track winds through these fields, our plan is to establish native prairies, pollinator plants, all these things that are really nice demonstrations. So maybe you can open up the track to the public who just wants to come walk around, and we're going to do that. So when I mentioned the project in Natalie, one of the areas that we're going to be putting in is we're already starting some of that native prairie to get it established, to find out what works and doesn't work. So again, the front of the farm is going to become more of the public face of the farm. The back of the farm is going to be more of the business end. I'm gonna get to that real soon. All right. We are almost wrapped up with building a 21-acre wetland out there at the farm. And this is the area where the farm is going to go. We run a power line. That's what we're waiting for. Entergy was out there yesterday, putting the stakes in the ground where the power poles are going to go. The physical construction of wetland is already done. This is funded through Ducks Unlimited, who received money from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, who got their money from the BP oil spill. The whole point of this wetland is to put nutrient-rich water from Bayou Falls. We're going to pump it from here into the wetland, let it sit for a while, lower the nutrient level in the water, and then return the clean water back to Bayou Falls. All right, so the point of this is to reduce the amount of nutrients that are getting to the Gulf of Mexico. This is more of a demonstration thing for us to learn how long do you keep the water in before you flush in a new one or whatever. But the amount of opportunities this is going to give us for community engagement, for student education, will be incredible. This is what the water depths look like. The water comes in from the pump here, flows down, it fills in the deeper areas. The area along the bayou is going to be a naturally elevated dry area, very shallow area. In fact, we are working with the Greater New Orleans Iris Society. We're going to plant a whole bunch of native irises in here so they can come each fall, harvest what they want for their restoration needs. And then if you have irises in your yard, you know, they grow like weeds. They'll just repopulate every year. So we have an unlimited supply of native irises to use. We'll have levees along this way. And we'll have a complete walking path. There's a tree grove right here, an oak tree grove that's right here that we want to maintain. I'd love to put picnic tables in there or something. In this area, there's no trees. I want to do a nice walking path. Again, we establish prairie habitat, pollinator species, so that people can walk along that whole path and see all the butterflies and the bugs and maybe the spiders. I don't know. But we've got a lot of stuff out there. So this is, to me, going to become a centerpiece of community engagement at the Nichols Farm, as well as doing the education component of it. This is what it looks like. We've got an electric pump already installed right by the bayou. We're waiting for the power line. It's going to suck the water from here from the bayou. And then this is one of our drains where it's a gate drain, so we can lower or increase the water level depending on what we want to do. And this is, one of the levees looking down there. So this whole area is going to be the wetland. It's going to be fantastic. The amount of waterfowl this is going to bring in, I don't know. Just a couple of weeks ago, before we got that one rare rain, Gary Fine and I seeded the levees. And so some of the ryegrass is coming up already. And like I said, we should have the power to the pump installed, hopefully within a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And I expect water to be in this wetland, by the end of December. And that's it. Some of the ideas that we have to do that is the native iris propagation, the walking track. I want to develop a parking area. In fact, the plans for that professional cross-country track includes the track around the wetland as a warm-up track for those teams. So we're going to use it that way. I want to put in camera blinds along the way for people that want to come and take pictures of waterfowl. The waterfowl this is going to attract them to be phenomenal. I want to put a pirogue launch, like BTNEP has volunteer days. They can, at the end of the day, okay, you guys can go paddle around the wetland for a while, just as a little reward. I think that would be great. Community birding events, we can do a birding festival out there and whatnot. So a lot of things are gonna, I think, come from having this wetland out there. I've got to mention a bridge. Okay, this is what it looked like just a couple of years ago. But our bridge that connected us to the back of the farm had been out of commission since 2015. Dr. Clune, when he first got to Nichols, he said there were 3 things he had to take care of. One of them was that bridge, and he did it. Very thankful for Dr. Clune for that. ConocoPhillips gave us $100,000 for that bridge, and the Lafourche Parish was able to come up with the rest, and they used their contracting services to build the bridge, and that is our new bridge, and that's been usable since early 2022. Now, you can imagine 2015 to 2022, what it looks like back there. Stuff that we used to have nice and mowed, wooded areas, the trees. So we're going to leave some of those trees out there for the wildness of it, but we're going to definitely have to clear some of it out to access some of the areas. Now, I flipped the farm here. I want to show you guys this stuff. Back here, these 3 areas represent old crawfish ponds. This one I think is 11 acres. This one I think maybe 13 acres or something like that. So pretty sizable. Since I've been going to the farm, the trees have been growing in there. We've already gone through the succession of willow trees. Willow trees came in really thick. Now they're dying out there. So we're in a second stage succession out there. So this is kind of like a floodplain habitat that we see in the upper Barataria estuary, or maybe even a Chaffly basin or something like that. And then we've got this other pond back here, but I just want to give you the outlay. Here's the bayou. And this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Back when Mary Landrieu was senator, I brought her and T. Brad back here and showed her this idea, what I'm about to show you. And she had earmarked money to make this project happen, but that was the year they ended all earmarks. So there are people that think that this is a good project. These are those 2 ponds that I told you about, and then one in the back. Let me walk you through what I want to do. I want to build a berm, use a bulldozer, and build us a berm in the middle of this pond, install a low head paddle wheel that can spin real slow, that'll push water around here so we get a current, kind of like a bayou. I want to be able to pump water from Bayou Falls into this pond so we can adjust the levels of it. And then I want to be able to have a low head spillway between these 2 areas so that when we raise the water level enough in here, it'll flood this just like a floodplain, just like the Chaffly Basin gets water in the spring and access all your crawfish and whatnot, or the upper Barataria does when it rains a lot, it does that. And then we can drain this water out this way, down this ditch, and then these ponds or the floodplains will dewater. What this will do will give us the ability to do floodplain type studies on a large scale where we control the flood pulse. I've done a lot of work in the Chaffly Basin. I've done a lot of work in Upper Barataria. And at every project we had associated with a flood pulse, the time and the duration of when the river comes up, you get what you have. Okay, you can't choose, you can't, you just have to tie in what you find with that. With this, we can flood early, we can flood late, we can flood regular, we can do comparative studies. This is gonna be the only facility that I know of in this country where you can do this scale of floodplain study. Ducks Unlimited is very interested in this, and they're talking like, well, they already have like maybe $200,000 to make this happen, They've already sent an engineer out here to kind of come up with a plan of how we're going to build this, what's going to be the cost. If we can get this going with the other wetland that we have, I mean, the sky's the limit as far as what we can do. The educational opportunities, the research opportunities, I think is going to be pretty incredible. So we still have a lot of work to do, especially in the back of the farm. This is what it looks like back there. And so I'm weaving through the thing, hit the bush hog tree sometimes and cuss a little bit, but we're still out there. And what I'm going to talk about today is to share with you what we've done out there, what our future plans are, and to let you know as part of the management conference that we have a lot of space out there. If you have any ideas for projects or anything that you want to do, if you want to bring a group out there to come do something, let me know. I think I'm okay on time. Maybe I got a couple more minutes. Senator Jack McFarland, he's up in the northern part of the state. His son plays football here. And he and Dr. Clooney are becoming friends. He's also in the House, he's the chair of the House Ag, Forestry, and Aquaculture Committee. He said, I didn't know y'all had a farm. So well, let's go see it. And so Dr. Clooney contacted me on Wednesday, asked me to call him. So I called him that Wednesday evening. I met him out there Thursday, gave him a tour of the farm. He just loved it. And he said, I didn't know y'all had all this out there. And he started asking, what do y'all want? What do you want? Through that conversation, I said, well, one of the plans that we have is eventually put a pavilion out here, large pavilion like they have down at Raceland, that houses a large full-scale kitchen so we can do farm to table type. And when I said farm to table, he's like, oh, wait a minute, that's it. That's like the future of ag. And we're gonna make that happen. I said, okay, yeah, I've heard stories like that before. That was Thursday. Saturday, I got a call from Michelle Crochet. He says, Quentin, I just talked to Jack McFarland. He wants y'all to put in a capital outlay request for that farm to table pavilion. He won't stop talking about it. He's all excited about it. I said, okay, we put that request in that next Friday. So within a week of having him out in the farm, we've got that. Not only are we going to do that, but we're doing an outdoor cooking facility, a smoker, special types of grills, pizza ovens, maybe so we can do boucheries out there to keep that alive. We want to put in a native, we want to put in a garden. So I want to talk to people who have maybe heirloom vegetables in line. We're going to establish some heirloom gardens out there and do a real farm to table at this facility, as well as do other events. I mean, it's right there by y'all's production mat. So if y'all want to do, thank you events or whatever, it's going to be there. We have plenty of bathroom space. We don't have bathrooms out there right now. We have a lot of trees, but no bathrooms. That's about it. And that's what I want to share with you. So I'll be glad to take any questions. All right, thank you. And I didn't mention all the other research projects we have, but we have a lot of other stuff happening at the farm, but I'm time limited. Okay, is Corey Pham in the house? Yes. All right, Corey's going to be talking to us about the Salvinia weed biological control, which is something I know I'm really excited about. Oh. I was waiting for her to get up there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Pham, and I'm a research associate and graduate student at Louisiana State University in the Department of Entomology. And today I'm going to be talking about my project using invasion ecology to optimize the biological control agent, the Salvinia weevil, for the invasive giant salvia. So first, I'm going to talk about the project that was actually funded by BTNEP. So I'm really excited to be here and really share those results that we have and some preliminary results for one of the trials. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about updates on the biological control program that we have at LSU. Oh no, now I'm having, okay, there we go. So giant Salvinia is a free-floating aquatic fern that has invaded nearly every parish in Louisiana and especially Barataria-Terrebonne area. And it negatively impacts the environment by covering the water surface, blocking sunlight penetration, reducing dissolved oxygen, and that results in major fish die-offs and ultimately impacting waterfowl hunting. And so a lot of landowners, they contact me with these issues and not being able to access their water bodies anymore, and marshes being taken over by giant salvinia. So there are 3 methods to control giant salvinia. So the first method that's really commonly used is chemicals, which herbicides really work well on giant salvinia. However, it can be very costly. Likewise, using mechanical harvesters, which unfortunately the legal animation popped up before me. But here's a harvester here. To mechanically remove a giant salvinia can take a lot of time and a lot of money. So you normally have to pay for a salary of someone to come in every single day and remove giant salvinia. Giant salvinia reproduces very quickly. It can actually double biomass under optimal conditions within 36 to 72 hours. So having someone on site to mechanically remove the salvinia can be very costly. So we recommend using the biological control agent, the salvinia weevil, which is here. It's very small. It's about the size of a kiwi seed. So it's not always easy to find in the plant. So as a research associate, one of my major tasks is monitoring giant salvinia in the field across the state. And I do a lot of monitoring from all the way from Cameron to Slidell. And then we also do some monitoring in central Louisiana. And another role that I have at the Ag Center is to rear and distribute the salvinia weevil using the open earthen ponds here, where I maintain a colony of giant salvinia and the weevil and balancing that population year round. And then we harvest annually using this conveyor belt where the landowners and stakeholders will come to the property and collect the material using totes, which is behind here, but totes meaning like the storage containers, Rubbermaid, 18 gallons from Walmart. They're $6. That's the spiel to the landowners. So they come and collect them in the totes. Right now, it's about 1 tote per acre of infestation. That's typically what the recommendation is. Sometimes, so here's a photo from Gina, Louisiana, central Louisiana. The cypress bottomland swamps can be very difficult to navigate via boat. So that's one really major perk of using the salvinia weevil, because if you can't get access into these into this bottomland, the weevil can. They actually can fly and they can disperse more easily than we can. So sometimes based off of geography, the landowners just place all the weevils in one spot. Sometimes they have more large open marshes like in Cameron, and they can really spread out the weevils throughout the property. So that leads us to question, how can we optimize the release recommendations for the landowners? Is there a difference? So if they put in the work to disperse the weevils the day they harvest, will that better impact the giant salvinia infestation? Will we be able to collapse it faster versus just placing it all on one side of the water body? So this project was really looking at, can we use the invasion ecology theory, propagule pressure, to increase the population growth of the weevil? So propagule pressure is utilizing it's an invasion ecology hypothesis, looking at if we can increase size and frequency of release of an invasive species, then that would most likely take over faster. So it's kind of flipping the script and using the biological control agent to increase success of establishment. Okay, so here, here's a photograph of me releasing those salvinia weevils inside the salvinia. So they're really high dense weevils. And I don't know if you can tell with the resolution, but this is a drone image, and these black dots are where we released weevils. So that really shows just how high dense the weevils are, because the plant material is really brown and beginning to sink. And using this theory of propagule pressure to increase the population of weevils to ultimately reduce the giant Salvinia biomass. So because our major goal is to optimize the weevil rearing program, there are two objectives on how we're going to do that. So one, determine the weevil population growth as propagule pressure increases, and then second, determine the impact on plant performance as propagule pressure increases, or the number of releases increases. So I conducted a small scale preliminary study at Baton Rouge Aquaculture Research Facility that's owned by LSU Ag Center. And I used these stock tanks, 150-gallon stock tanks. And I used 6 different treatment levels. One, I did not release any weevils. Then one, just the weevils released in one spot, then divided into 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that would simulate the landowner receiving the weevil infested Salvinia and then dividing that tote up across their property. So I had 2 trials. They lasted for 5 weeks. The summer trial had 41 weevils per kilogram, which was the density, and then the fall had 150 weevils per kilogram. And that result, that was reflecting on if you harvested at that point in time from the ponds, that would be the weevil density. Okay, oh, sorry, my animations did not make it. So the way that I recorded the plant parameters was looking at the plant percent coverage, plant damage, the weevil density, and dry biomass. And I collected all of the plant material by using a small quadrat about this size. And we put them in Berlese using the Berlese funnel extraction method. And then we counted the density of the weevils. So the Berlese funnel extraction method is using these funnels, placing the Salvinia inside the funnel with an ethanol bag underneath, leaving the light on for 72 hours, allowing all of the macroinvertebrates to fall down into the ethanol bag, and then they're counted. And then all that dry weight would be then weighed and recorded. And then you can kind of see in this part, the plant damage was recorded based off of color. So this is a plant damage 1 where you can see some browning, but it's mostly green. And then this is a plant damage 4 here. And that one, you can start to see some spaces of water, and 5 would be brown and completely sinking. So for the summer trial, we did not see any significant differences between the weevil density for each treatment level as propagule pressure increases. We did not see any significant difference. And we did see some significant difference for plant performance. However, it is not did not have a high impact. It had a very low impact if you were to go and explain it to a landowner. So, for example, all releasing weevils in general increase the plant damage ranking, but 0 was most healthy, 5 is most damaged. The landowner would not be happy with this because it's not enough damage. And then for percent coverage, having 1 release decreased the percent coverage by 5%, but that again, the landowner would not be happy with that result. And then mat thickness going from 4.5 centimeters thick to 3.5, and then biomass was significantly different for 4 releases versus control. But again, there was just a very low impact, but it did show that there would be something going on, and the trial only lasted for 5 weeks. So I repeated it to see if we would see any other differences. But it only went for 5 weeks, and the weevils live for about 40 days. So their reproductive life stage is 40 days. So I don't believe it was enough time to see the generational change for this small scale study. The larval density was significant for the fall trial, but as you can see, it was not significantly different from the control. So again, the 5 weeks, I don't think was enough time to show generational change. The plant conformance was significantly different and had a high impact. So having 3 releases here, you can see that there's more plant damage. There was a decrease in percent coverage to almost 50% over 5 weeks. And then mat thickness, almost 50%. And then over time, as you increase propagular pressure, the biomass, the dry biomass of giant salvinia decreased over time. So this preliminary study showed that using propagular pressure can increase the weevil population establishment. And then that shows and lets us know that we can tell the landowners if they put in a little bit more effort in the beginning of releasing weevils, then they would have a return on investment of their time. So this was a small scale study. And so saying, you know, relating it from a stock tank to acres of giant salvinia is not the best for, for recommendations. So I wanted to repeat this trial, but using ponds, which would be more applicable to the landowner. So I used these ponds in San Gabriel, Louisiana. So I was supposed to have 2 trials, but this summer I couldn't keep the weevils to stop. I couldn't get them to stop flying. So they kept crashing. I set it up 3 times, 3 ponds, and they kept crashing my trial. So I only got 1 to actually get up and started. So we'll have to repeat it in the spring. So here's a diagram. We are using this pond here, and I sectioned it off using booms and have 0, 1, and 4 releases of weevils, and it's the same amount of weevils per experimental unit. And here I am in the ponds releasing, and you can see the dense weevil plant material here. And we kicked it off in July, and we're still running the project. So what the results I'm showing you are just from July to current. So every month we are recording plant parameters and weevil density for each experimental unit. And some plant parameters are significantly different over time. For example, the percent green. So instead of ranking it as percent plant health damage 0 to 5, this one is looking at percent green within a meter quadrat. And then, so for percent coverage, there was no significant difference between the release strategies, but for percent green, having 4 releases was significantly different compared to 1 versus control versus 1 release. Likewise, for mat depth or mat thickness in centimeters, it was significantly different compared to control. And sorry, just for the 1 release, which was kind of interesting, but I think there's not enough data points yet. And then for dry biomass, there was no significant difference. And then there was no significant difference between weevil densities, which is interesting as well. But this project will continue through winter and into spring, essentially until it crashes. That's the goal. So then we can really see how the whole system works itself out over time. So optimizing the biological control program is really important for Louisiana landowners and stakeholders, because the goal is this image here, which is I received from one of my landowners. He released 8 of these totes on his property in June, and then by August, his property was completely restored. And this is the goal, and I want all of my landowners to have this fast of turnaround for their properties. And hopefully the release recommendations will give that piece to the landowners. Can we do questions now on that, or would you like to wait later? Because
On the project specifically?
yes.
Sure. Questions on trials?
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want it to I wanted to remain fresh in your minds. Okay, so for the Giant Sylvania Biological Program, one of my main goals, like I had said before, is to monitor the Giant Sylvania across the state, especially coastal areas, as my position at the Ag Center is funded by CIPRA. So this is a photo of Bayou Cane, and this is a photo of a landowner in Bill Platt, who received weevils this summer. With rearing weevils in outdoor ponds, we are facing a lot of issues. So other invasive species coming in. So most of my job is pulling weeds out of the weed because it creates this wonderful microhabitat for other plants to come in because it creates this really dense, thick mat. Other species can really take hold. So one of the species that I'm really battling is Cuban bulrush, and that it loves salvinia. So most of my job is pulling weeds and managing the pond and making sure it remains in monoculture. And then additionally, Baton Rouge is being invaded by apple snails. So nearly every water source has apple snails in it, which is a major issue for Louisiana's economy. So I have started working and getting this set up for this winter, which is an indoor rearing facility, which would improve our biological control program because we would not have to battle all of the other invasives that would come in. And even as simple as little things that, just get in and are just more, makes management more difficult. This would be a more isolated facility where we don't have to worry as much about things coming in. So we're getting this ready, set up, and we're gonna actually switch to city water, which is a new experience because I'm so used to rearing everything in pond water. How do we monitor giant salvinia in the field? So we look at the plant stage over time, and then we use this. Here's a picture of this cafeteria tray, and that's how we measure the mat thickness. So we slide it underneath the mat of salvinia and lift it up, and the mat on top of that cafeteria tray is then measured in centimeters. And then this is the quadrat that we use to measure the plants, and we look at percent coverage, percent green of the plant, any feeding damage present, whether it's the salvinia weevil feeding or the feeding from the generalist moth, Samia. And then we look at the wet and dry biomass, and then the weevil density using the Berlese funnel extraction method. And then we also record water quality and then any other species present on the property, like water hyacinth, water lettuce, Cuban bulrush, alligator weed. And so since I've started at LSU Ag Center, I've made some changes to the monitoring program. So we created this new sampling data sheet form, and then we are in the process, we have switched from recording plant damage ranking 0 to 5 to percent green. So it's more, instead of it being more observational, we can have an exact number to really quantify how the weevils are impacting the plant health. And then we're also recording dry weight, because in the past, dry weight was, and that biomass was not recorded. And depending on how you sample and how long you let the plants drain, that moisture content will change from sample to sample. And even if you're trying your best to have it timed exactly the same way to drain, it's not as exact as the dry biomass. So There are several recommendations I have to improve the future of giant salvinia monitoring, which I hope to implement next year. So I would like to have a continued release of weevils doing more augmented biocontrol instead of the classical biocontrol of releasing once, and that's where the greenhouse would come in, because the greenhouse would not provide as much acreage and the amount of biomass that would come out from an annual harvest. It's a less surface area within the greenhouse. So the goal would be to do small releases of several landowners getting weevils in 1 month, and then a couple weeks later, they get another set of landowners get another generation of weevils, and we just continuously give them weevils from spring to fall. So we're not just having one annual harvest where we service 30 landowners, where we're able to really service more. Additionally, with climate change, we are seeing that from the weevil, because it's native to Brazil as well as the plant, it does not overwinter well. So the giant salvinia infestations from the north, the weevils are not able to survive through winter. So those infestations are really strong. They make it through winter, and then they get flooded down. They go, all of that salvinia from central Louisiana is going down into south and reinfestating different areas. Additionally, when we get a hurricane, like we saw, particularly with Hurricane Laura and Cameron, all of that salvinia was completely flushed out. And so that was really good for about 1.5 years. But then all of the salvinia from up north then flooded down, and it was reinfested, and then they don't have weevils. So we need to continuously release weevils. And I would like to try a project where we're releasing weevils north, like let's say north of Cane Bayou, and then see if those weevils and ultimately make it down closer to the mouth of Cane Bayou. Additionally, looking at landowners' property before and after releases, and that would be basically tying on to this project that I've just presented of release recommendations. How can we improve the release strategies? And for each property, it's going to be different based off of water quality and the system. And so I would like to study more on the landowner scale. And then also looking at changing the weevil density from per kilogram, which is based off of the wet weight, to meters squared, because we're already using a quadrat. So looking at the number of weevils within this area versus the wet weight, it would give us a better look at what is the density, what is the actual density. And then looking at the satellite and drone images of how the salvinia moves over time, because it's all these waterways are so connected. How is just a simple little maybe like simple thunderstorm, how is that impacting salvinia spreading to other areas of the marsh? So one other factor of my job is outreach. Outreach is key because we're in sportsman's paradise. Many people go down on the bayou in their kayaks and boats. They go fishing. They just love being in the environment, and they might be spreading salvinia unintentionally because it just clings to their boat. So really educating the kids and the parents and families who are really using Louisiana's resources about giant salvinia and other aquatic invasive species, because it's really impacting our wetlands, our ecosystems, and then our ability to use these areas. So I've created several YouTube videos through the Ag Center. I've created a Facebook and Instagram. The Instagram is better if you are interested in social media. We will rock you. And then, so here's an image of the LSU Ag Magic facility event where all of the kids, elementary age kids come, and then we had a little boat race with and without salvinia, so they could see how hard it was to get across, and then then it was a great method, a great teaching moment, because then they would switch tanks and then they infested the other one. So it was good. So I got to tell them how they should have cleaned the boat off. And then we published several articles in 2 different magazines. So, and this project included, so, and BTNEP was mentioned. So I got to share the results on this project. And then we have some other studies going on looking at dispersal of weevils. So here's in the pond in St. Gabriel, where we have safety traps set up to see how high the weevils fly, and if they did actually fly from one side of the pond where we released versus no weevils, and they actually did fly. And then I'm also looking at competition interaction between Cuban bulrush and giant salvinia to see how we can better manage, and I can really give good advice to the landowners, because landowners are seeing more observations of Cuban bulrush, and they call me and they say, okay, well, it's collapsing, but now I have a grass. And then I'm like, oh no, don't say grass. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't want that for you. I hate it. And then on that note, looking at indirect and direct toxicity of the weevil with using triclopyr, which is a chemical used to kill Cuban bulrush. So looking to see, will that kill the weevil? Then if you're trying to manage the bulrush and the salvinia and the weevil, how can we better manage this infestation? So in conclusion, using the invasion ecology and all of these tools that we do have, we can really improve our biological control program to benefit our landowners and stakeholders, and increase communication with our stakeholders and landowners for better management of aquatic weeds, and using propagule pressure will really improve the population of the biological control. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
We have time for a couple of questions.
So if the landowner gets treatment and they get a total collapse, that's good for the year, or did the salvinia come back and the weevils are no longer there because they didn't have anything to reside on? Or?
Really, what I see is in Cameron, it collapses really quickly, and then there's a reinfestation in the spring. So once it starts raining again, it flushes down from neighbors. So it happens often. For Hurricane Laura, because of the salinity levels, they did not have any salvinia reinfestations for about 1.5 years. So it depends on the area, but for Cameron, I see majority of those landowners have complete collapse, and then they get reinfested. They get reinvested with it. Did that answer your question?
From an outside source.
Yes, from an outside source. And sometimes they have weevils, but they still come and get weevils from me. So then they have a boost in the population. So they still come. Yes.
I'm very excited about the greenhouse. I think it'll allow you the opportunity to get weevils out earlier in the calendar year.
Yes, yes.
And then additionally, and it has obviously other advantages besides just that you talked about. But on a scale of production standpoint,
yes.
You still going to have the outdoor ponds, or are you moving entirely to the greenhouse? Or
I've killed the St. Gabriel ponds, other than for the BTNEP experiment. It's just for an experiment at the moment because of the apple snails. But I hope to. So what we're going to do for this year, because the greenhouse is new and we're not really sure how it's going to work and the amount of weevils we can really produce, we're going to have an outdoor pond as well. We're going to use the ones in St. Martinville Cave, but I'm not going to set those up until this spring, because the Cuban bulrush, it doesn't matter what you do. So for winter, it does fine, and the Cuban bulrush does great. So what we'll have to do is we're going to have to mow the crawfish pond, drain, mow, herbicide, several herbicides, and then fill the ponds add plants and then add weevils, which will be really nice too, to have a high concentration stock of weevils. So we don't have to wait that long for the population to boom. And then the salvinia won't be thick by the time the population booms. So it'll be thinner, more dense, and concentrated weevils for the landowners.
Thank you. Very good.
Did you have a question?
I was just gonna ask, have you been able to keep up with the demand from the landowners up to this point? Or do you all have an excess, or how do you see that growing? Because it seems like the more success you have, the more people are gonna be wanting it.
Right, that's kind of where we're at right now. I only have one day that I harvest out of the year because it takes so many people. It requires at least 12 people to have a harvest. And our lab is 12 people, but after January, it's gonna be 5. So the amount of work it takes to actually have a harvest and host that many people. We had 12 people and we had 30 landowners that we did not finish. We started at 8 a.m. We didn't finish till 3 p.m. So that it was they were lines out down into this down Nicholson. So I don't like that we're not servicing that many people. Additionally, having one harvest a year is not, I don't think it's sufficient to get the most amount of weevils out, because I have weevils, but it's just the manpower of getting it to the landowners. Additionally, they can't always choose their schedule, so then they don't get to come. So I have over 150 landowners on my list, and the maximum people I've ever given weevils to are 30. So that's not enough. So I would say that no, but the goal is for the greenhouse. So then they get more weevil. I get to service more people. They might have less weevils, but then you get small introductions. So it's still using the idea of propagular pressure, where you have small, frequent releases to really boost that population.
That's gonna be interesting. to see
Yes.
what greenhouses do.
Yes, it'll be interesting, and I'm excited to see how it all comes together.
I have one last question.
Yes.
In the far northern parts of the state where salvinia is a big problem, do we do releases up there and just for the summer months, or if
I
ever
do.
overwinter up there, I would assume.
I do, and I hope that, so there's another project going on. It's all preliminary, but there's some research, some data to show that the weevils that are surviving at north are more cold tolerant than the ones in Slidell, for example. They really overwinter well, better in central. So central is really like the furthest that they'll be successful at. I give the landowners weevils anyways, for up north, and just hope that it will be a mild winter and they do okay, and then the population will grow. But I always tell them, like, it might not work. I forgot where I was going with this. The question was about north. So okay,
It's
so
still worth it to release
Mhm.
weevils out there.
yeah, so for Louisiana, this is the only weevil release program. There is another program in Louisville with the U.S. Army Corps, Julie McTrade. I don't know if you know of her, but she has done releases in North and Central Louisiana. So she's releasing there with LWF, and we're also releasing through the landowners. So it'll be interesting to see over time how it works. And they do well in Central. They're collapsing some wildlife management areas. So that's a positive. And then hopefully we get the Argentinian weevil out. So then we can have a cold tolerant weevil. So that's coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, a couple of things left. I want to remind everybody that our next management conference is going to be February 9th. It'll be on campus, but we still haven't picked the room yet, so mark the calendar for February 9th. And then for other business, I want to point out that Doug Day has asked us to consider a resolution. So there's a draft resolution that's on the table when you come in. If you did not pick one up, please do. And essentially, this is in support of the Gulf Hypoxia mapping crew. So when we mapped the Gulf Dead Zone back in 2017 and in 2019, the management conference supported this resolution. He's modified it a little bit, I believe. But I would like to ask you to bring a copy of this home with you to review it. And when we meet next management conference, we'll have a vote on this resolution. And basically it's saying that we support them to continue funding that mapping program that they have to understand the breadth of the dead zone. Okay. Any other business? All right, so I'll put a shameless plug. I'm here representing the Katy Music Preservation Society. Thibodeauville is this Saturday. We'll have a stage next to Spars on 4th Street. First band starts at 10:30. 10:30 to 12:30, we're doing a jam, 12:30 to 1:30, and then from 1:30 to 3:30, we have our second band playing. So if you have some good Cajun music, come by Spars and say hello. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Brian, do we have a second? Yes, sir. We got all in favor? All right. Okay. Thank y'all.